Hello everyone, and welcome back to my Sodor layout. Quite a lot has changed since the last video. If you want a more thorough tour of where everything is and what connects to where, feel free to check that out. In this video, I'll mainly be covering what's new. With that being said, I'll start again in Tidmouth, where I've scratch built a Railway Series accurate Tidmouth station. There are 5 tracks under the large canopy roof, as well as 2 exposed ones for shorter branch line trains. Across from that is an in-progress Tidmouth sheds, and adjacent carriage and diesel facilities. There's an iron girder bridge that passes over all the sheds, accessing the A.W. Dry & Company factory, which also acts as a backdrop to the yards and harbor area. Not much has changed in the neighboring Tidmouth docks, though. Around the back of the station, the main line curves and passes by Knapford Harbor. This is where stone trucks from Enofa are brought to be loaded onto ships for export. There's a large bay area beyond the quays here that eventually butts up to the container dock, where Tess the Crane keeps busy loading modern freight trains. She can also be removed if I ever want the docks to look less contemporary. Behind this is a small quarry area, inspired by Knapford Quarry on the Reverend's layout. All these industries are on a goods loop that runs behind the main junction station of Knapford. This iteration being based on Clive Spong's illustrations. The main line runs through the middle of the station, while trains for Thomas's branch line can be boarded on the far side. The main line splits just beyond the platform, with one route leading back to Tidmouth, and the other going through this small tunnel. Which on the opposite side acts as Henry's Tunnel. High above all this, an upper track weaves through the cliffs and hills of the island, taking us to such places as Bluebell Valley Station and Tidmouth Bay Station and Castle. This upper track is great for fast runs with long trains, and runs through the station, over the viaduct, and into the gold mine area, which has narrow gauge sidings to mine rock at a huge mountain. I'm not too sure what to put on this mountain, honestly, but it needs finishing. Back down along the upper line, Tidmouth Bay Station is right next to these circus grounds, and the standard and narrow gauge lines continue on past the Arlesdale Railway. The Arlesdale Loop passes by the bridge where Rex crashed once, and runs on Z-gauge track, which painstakingly has had every other sleeper removed to look narrow gauge, just like they did in Season 4. Up at Arlesdale Station, there's a manually operated turntable, as per the real thing, which allows tender engines to turn around before taking their trains back down the line. This corner will eventually have a representation of the mill, and a more accurate station building also needs to be made. This road from the station also leads to Knapford parking lot, where vehicles can travel over the goods line through this narrow level crossing. This switch from the scenic loop leads back down the mountain into Arlesborough West, where the station and sheds are nearly complete, as well as a scratch-built Tidmouth Tunnel portal. Above all this, the upper track leads into Peel Godred Aluminum Works and Station, situated next to the walled town of the same name. The double track splits here, but both tunnel under the city just like they do on the actual Sodor map. The narrow gauge railway passes under one track, and pops out between the two standard gauge ones. From there, one standard and one narrow gauge line share a viaduct. And both lead into a small wharf area where Colin the Crane will be next to a canal. There's also a small station here where passengers can exchange from Mid-Sodor to the Arlesborough branch line. Down on the lower level in front of that is Wellsworth Station, which has had its platforms cut and the building almost finished. And similarly, Arlesborough Harbour has had some updated buildings. I've also worked to secure the stone walls that box in the town, as well as the tram road that runs behind it. Behind the wharf and station area is the beginnings of the Caldy Fell and Mid-Sodor section, where a standard gauge line from Kildane rises through a helix to connect to the viaduct. The uppermost standard gauge line crosses a girder bridge and speeds into a tunnel to get to Kirkmachan. Kirkmachan, of course, is the main terminus and works of the Caldy Fell Railway. It is now fully operational with isolated tracks and motorized switches that can all be controlled from these switchboards. The CFR uses the Faro Train rack railway system, which means that it'll actually be able to climb the mountain once I get around to building it. In front of that is the Mid-Sodor sheds and works at Arlesdale, shed building coming soon, which also backs up to the incline. The Mid-Sodor will pass under the Caldy Fell through King Ori's Bridge and back around to the wharf, while the Caldy Fell will climb above it and eventually to the summit station, high above even the incline. The standard gauge track, meanwhile, will continue past Kirkmachan, over a bridge, past Toby's Windmill, and back down into Vickerstown. Not too much has changed over here as I slowly work from the other end of the layout. But the Railway Museum has been paved and is ready for decoration. And a new lift-out adjustable bridge will be installed beyond Kildane Station. The bridges over gaps in my layout need to be adjustable to account for thermal expansion, so these two are being rebuilt with this Walthers adjustable track to do just that. I've also decided that the dairy will go here instead of the windmill, but the main line still passes through this tunnel and onto Crovan's Gate. The track above that leads into Marin, where things are shaping up with new platforms. But down below is Crovan's Gate Station and the Skarloey engine sheds, as well as the Crovan's Gate Mining Company and a much bigger engine works building, complete with a transfer table in front of it. Behind this, the lower main line crosses a bridge and continues back to the docks and yard of Tidmouth, while the upper track runs by a windmill. And that's honestly about it as far as updates go for now. I have many projects in the works as always, and if you'd like to see what I work on from a day-to-day basis, the best place for that would be my Twitter, Blue Sky, or Instagram. Bye for now.